you know what? We promised each other that we would be transparent, right? So, would you share one of your near-death experiences, and I will do the same. Or you want me to start?
Yeah. That was always my head. That I get chills every time I think of it because it
Yeah.
was so. Go ahead, you share yours.
Okay, so well, I had two. One, I was to graduate from college that week, and I went to a local grocery store to return my sister's curl activator. Those were when they were wearing Jerry curls, right? And I felt that they, you know, overcharged her. And we were 11 years apart. So, she was probably in grade school at that time. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm going to return this. So I went to our neighborhood store in St. Louis, Missouri, in the hood. And I asked to speak to the manager. And the lady behind the counter said, well, the manager's not here. And I said, well, I'd like to return this activator. It's just way too much. You guys overcharged. And she said, well, that sale is final. And I looked at the receipt and it did not say all sales final. So I said, well, I need to speak to the manager. Now, let me give you the picture of the store. When you walk in the door, it's a galley, right? It's just one long like hallway, and everything you need is behind a bulletproof glass. Everything you need is behind a bulletproof glass, so you just point. This lady came from behind this bulletproof glass, locked door, and pointed a gun at my head and told me to get the out of her store. I was to graduate that week. So the only thing I could think of was, oh my God, I can't die like this, right? And the only thing I could think of was my sister she knows that I love her. My mom and my grandmother know that I love them. And my sister and brother in Chicago, and my father knows I love them. I don't know who I was dating at the time. I'm sure they came into my brain. But that's all I could think of. Who did I not tell that I love them? That's what came to my mind. So that was the first time. Yeah. Yeah. The second time I got a message in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii with the guy I was dating at the time. And I was on the beach and we got this text message on our cell phones that said, you have 15 minutes to take cover. There's a nuclear weapon that's about to hit the Hawaiian Islands. And so when I read it, I was like, that can't be true, because I'm out enjoying. I love me some beach. I'm out enjoying nature and just vibing with God. And I'm looking at this text message like, this cannot be right. And there were a few other people on the beach. And I saw people look at their phones and look up and look at their phones and look up. And finally somebody said, did you get the text message? And then finally everybody's like, oh my God, you got a text message. Is this real? Is this real? So 15 minutes. So I'm sitting there thinking, how am I going to use 15 minutes? How am I going to use 15 minutes? So the same thoughts came to my mind in terms of who knows that I love them? Who did I show? Right? So I checked the list off of my girls and my mom and my family. And my boyfriend at the time was in the hotel room. I was just, there doing a meditative walk through the beach. And I said, well, I'm in paradise. Everybody knows I love them. And if this is the way that I'm supposed to go out, I guess this is the way I go out. Can I tell you, I was not nervous. I was not running with my hair on fire, going, oh my God, none of that. I calmly walked up into the hotel room and I embraced my boyfriend and I said, we probably got about 10 minutes now. But where are you going to go? There were no shelters, right? There would have been pandemonium trying to get in a car and go where? You're on an island, right? But again, that thought, like a nuclear weapon, really burned? That's not how I pictured my life. But again, like you said, in slow motion, the only things that I thought about was the gratitude that I had in my heart for being able to see beautiful things, to be with people that I love, and okay, the acceptance, right? So those are my two.
Ooh, I love that.
A bit of a comedian in some parts of it, but that was truly the way I was like, well, I'm in paradise.
I'm on it. Okay.
All right.
And also, I love to ask in those moments for you before I ask the question, how deep had you traveled down your inner self to heal any of that, to come to that space to say, let me do a self-check of the people. I'm good.
The first time in my 20s, scared to death and tearful and shocked and angry at the same time. I'm only, I'm doing something so normal and innocent. Why? So a lot of anger in that first time, but my loved ones were the ones that I thought about immediately. And then the second time was a true, beautiful, deep spiritual journey that every aspect of me knew then and knows now that if anything were to ever happen, I am living my life authentically with love, here to shine as much light as I can for those who want to listen or want to be around me, and here to learn and explore. And even, damn it, when I get hurt, I'm okay with healing my childhood wounds and my traumas, because that's when you get hurt, right? It triggers that. And then starting again, trusting myself, because at the end of the day, I'm all I have, right? It's between me and God. And living my life authentically in that way, I'm at peace.
Ooh. I want to breathe into that and just have that moment for us and for anyone who's listening to reflect on if they've had an experience like that, if they've had multiple experiences. Were they similar? Was it different? Did you grow through it? What did you take away from it? And just reflect and maybe write it down if you guys are listening, as I start to answer. Mine,
I love that, Neeco. Thanks for doing that. That was important.
Because we are sharing because we want to give others the opportunity to reflect and connect, right? We want you to reflect with us, laugh with us, but connect so we can heal and move and transition together. I had mine. I've had one, but then I've had two out-of-body experiences. And so that particular one, I wasn't healed. I was in a caregiver space, new caregiver space for my mom. And my mental just needed a break. I was overwhelmed. I was scared. We said being transparent, right? I was scared. I knew nothing what I was getting myself into. But I understood that self has to be priority right now. And so for me, I like to drive because it helps me think. And I love to connect with nature and I love to look at the trees, especially if it's in the season of the fall, because you get to see, especially if you live in a certain state, that you really get to see. I'm from California. We don't have the colors in the trees. We have palm trees, so it's always the same color. So with me being here in Georgia, so we don't know where you are chiming in from. Maybe it's cold and maybe you could connect to nature differently. And maybe putting on sound music, or I love to put on YouTube and create a space. Like I might put on the soft music with the fireplace. So maybe you can create your own space, right? Where I hear the fireplace crackling and I could see the trees or the water. So that might be if you're in a different part of the world where you don't get the opportunity to see nature at its most highest beauty. But I needed that moment. And so I went driving, and I have been one to battle with anxiety. My first anxiety attack was 21 years old. So my body recorded what anxiety looked like for me. But this time it showed up totally different. And I didn't recognize it. I didn't know what was happening. I was driving, and it's almost like my limbs started responding involuntarily. My arms were moving independently as my legs, but my foot was on the gas. And I remember just staying present in the moment. And I had that quick moment of how we're taught. This too shall pass. Yeah. And that thought came in, and I thought, well, maybe I could just make it home and I could just sleep it off. And so I want to urge us to not repeat things that we've heard, because we've lost so many people thinking I could sleep this off. Your body is the biggest GPS. It's the biggest signal. Let's not ignore that. And I say that because that is the moment where I chose to ignore. One side of my brain was screaming, just drive home and get in the bed, sleep it off. The other side of my brain said no. And I was at the intersection getting ready to cross over the expressway. And somehow my body turned, and I was turning the wheel. My brother had called, and we hadn't talked in some years. And at that time, again, I was unhealed. We hadn't talked. I had unforgiveness in my heart. I was afraid. I was scared. And I just started crying. I am scared. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening to my body. And because of our childhood trauma with our family with addiction and our family battling cancer all the way since the 90s, going to the doctor in the emergency room was off limits to my brother and I. Off limits. We do not go to the emergency room because what we've experienced as children, it was very traumatic to see my dad, who passed away of pancreatic cancer, in a hospital suffering. So it was like, brother, I think I'm driving myself to the emergency room. And I breathed into that, to trust that side of my brain. And he said, okay, I trust you. Well, that was what the little Neeco needed to hear. She needed that support because she was unhealed. She had a lot of unforgiveness. There was a resentment there. But just for him to say, I trust you. So at that moment, I didn't think of any family member at that moment. I just felt, I feel safe. I feel seen. I feel heard. I felt protected even though he was on the phone. And I drove myself to that emergency room with him in my ear. And then I switched to, oh, I'm kind of in and out. I don't really know how I got there, but oh, wait a minute. Let me share my location with my son. And I shared my location with my son. At that moment, I let my brother just take the wheel emotionally. So he called my son on the three-way. He asked me, what are you doing? Did you get your mom's location? Get there. And so at that moment for me is where everything just went black. Everything went black. Everything paused. My body, I parked the car. I don't know how. I walked into the emergency room. I don't know how. But I just could remember looking into the eyes of the person that received me. And when I woke up, I was in the MRI machine. And I'm thinking, what happened? What's going on? So at that moment for me, it flashed so quickly, but yet so slow. Is to say, I took from that, trust what's in you. Trust who's around you. Yeah. And so I trusted the leading of my brother's voice as I drove because I was out. If the police had pulled me over, they probably would have said this lady is. I don't remember any of that. And so that experience for me was fearful because I was behind the wheel of a car that could have went all bad. But yet still had that inner peace to know it's going to be okay. And to open my eyes to my son standing there. Then you have this other self-talk. What happened? How did I get here? Why did my body not give me a signal? Yeah. So I breathe into that to offer us the opportunity to check in with our body. My body gave me a signal. How often do we ignore it or think the signal is so faint that we overlook it? Yeah. And so to answer any questions that might be thinking, well, what? Well, I was just fine. They gave me an MRI. They gave me an EKG. They gave me a CT scan. My heart was fine, but I was dehydrated. And my potassium was low. And I was extremely stressed out. 1, did not know how to ask for help. 2, scared to say I was scared. And 3, not knowing how to say help. That was my experience. And for me, the scariest part was losing consciousness in and out. But I could feel it as I was slipping out. And I'm grabbing my chest. I'm screaming at the doctors. And they're looking at me saying, your EKG is perfect. Relax. Relax into your body and let you know your body has you. And at that moment, once I woke up, I realized, trust self.
Oh my goodness. I have to just take a moment to reflect and give what you just said some space, because I'm sure that those people who are watching now have experienced sometime in their lifetime where they felt that they really needed help, but were afraid to ask for help. Physically, mentally, doesn't matter. The fact that you feel like your body is signaling you need help and you're not doing anything about it. I just hope that this 21-hour challenge will help people to embrace the fact that they can ask for help, even by just being a participant. The help is that you are giving yourself permission to help yourself, right? You're giving yourself permission to explore who you are, mind, body, and spirit, and help yourself. If nothing else, becoming more aware that you have all the answers. You have all the answers. You go to a psychologist, they're going to listen until you unravel what's going on in your life. They're going to validate that, right? But they are waiting on you to figure it out. Physically, most of our medical science, unfortunately, isn't preventative. So you can't necessarily say, I think I feel like, I just need some assistance on my left side. Well, they're going to, like Neeco said, do the EKGs and do the MRIs and do a check mark. But will they take the time to give you a whole battery of tests to see what iron, vitamin you're deficient in? Probably not. Probably not. You'll get a blood transfusion before you get the preventative side that you need to feel better. So we have to get in tune with our own bodies to help ourselves. Neeco and I are not your saviors. That's not what this is about. We got our own stuff we're dealing with. We're not the saviors, but we're awesome guides. We've had enough real world experience and enough clients and students that we've worked with over, Neeco, we've known each other for about 14 years.
Yes.
Yes. And to the tune of thousands of fitness classes and students and clients that we've had, not collectively, separately, we've been on this journey. And so we've heard a lot and we've been through a lot and we've studied an awful lot. So I know for sure that this 21-hour challenge will fill you up with practical tools and some spiritual tools that will help you add to your toolbox, I should say, And I should also say, when I say spiritual, I don't mean religion, because I believe everyone has the right to come in with the religion that they are comfortable with. So we're not, everyone is welcome. But spiritual in terms of intuition, because we talked about that a lot. That's spirit, Your intuitive self is your spiritual self. And getting in touch with that is what I'm saying that we can help people with. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. And it's the hilarious thing is that we've been on this journey together, just one-on-one. Like you said earlier, being each other's accountability partners and just a safe space to listen. You've always been that for me. And I know I have carried that for you too. And I'm thrilled that we're finally doing what we said we were going to do many years ago. But I confidently feel that there was more healing and experiences that we needed to have before actually doing this. And now I feel like I'm in a really good space to be of assistance while we go through our own journey